Yeah, so I just started recording. I'm not gonna go through that prayer again for those who are hearing it later on online. If you're listening to this workshop, we all joined hearts in sadness for the Beavis family, and we prayed for Hashem to heal the brokenhearted and to protect us against the savagery that's in the heart and minds of the people that live all around us in Israel and even here. So, um, with that, we're going to do what Jews always do in all times, good and bad, which is to study the Holy Torah. Now, when you study Torah, it enhances the connection between God and our people and God and ourselves. And that's how goodness and positivity flow into the world. Torah study is keneged kulam. It's equal to all the other positive acts. Somehow studying Torah will lead to all the other positive acts. And I think that's because when you study Torah, you're really asking, what you're asking is, God, how can I serve you? God, how can I be a moral and upright person? And so for those two questions, how can I serve you? How can I be a moral and upright person? All the other good acts will flow from there. And then Kabbalistically, it really opens up the pipelines of bracha into this world. All right. So we thank you, Hashem, for giving us Torah. We are going to have our second part of this two-part session. The first was about the laws and the different philosophies and reasons behind kashrut, the different areas. Today, we're getting more practical. How to have and maintain a kosher home. Well, maintaining a kosher home is a lot easier if you don't have a bunch of kids who don't care about kashrut in your house. I'm not going to mention names, Zev. No, just kidding. But yeah, maintaining a kosher home is really just sticking to rules, and then if something goes wrong, knowing the rabbi's phone number, and that generally it's not too hard to fix the issue, generally. The basis of a kosher home is to make sure that milk and meat stay separate and that all the ingredients brought in are kosher. Okay, it's pretty simple like that. If you bring in kosher ingredients to your house and you separate milk and meat, you're good to go. So basar means meat, chalav is milk. And so most people are generally, people who keep kosher will have a set of dishes, a set of utensils, a set of cookware that is basari, fleshik, and a set of utensils and plates and ware and cooking things that is chalavi or milchik.
Is fleshik Yiddish?
Fleshik is Yiddish for basari,
right?
And milchik is and it's a G at the end. Milchig.
Oh, milchig.
Milchig is Yiddish. No, it's milchig. Is Yiddish for dairy, for chalavi. There's neutral, which is parv.
But there's no separate dishes for that.
You could if you wanted to.
No, you don't need separate dishes for that. Some people do have some, but I think it sometimes makes things complicated.
That's paper goods.
No.
But if you wanted, let's say you wanted to make something and then serve it with dairy and serve it with meat, so you may want to make it in a parv.
Yeah.
Or you just get glass dishes.
Yeah, so Rabbi, I was told that if you had glass, you didn't need two separate.
Yeah.
What?
I was told if you had glass, like glass dishes, you didn't need to have two separate sets.
mean, it's never. going
Okay,
to
so
be-
that there is an opinion that glass is not does not absorb taste, and we'll get to taste. Taste is the issue here.
Mhm.
Kasha, it would be so easy if not for taste, because then you just say, okay, is this thing treif or am I actually eating milk and meat? Like, why do you need separate dishes?
Mhm.
Because, and the reason is, we'll see down below what's called tam ki'ikr. Taste is like the thing itself. Or another way of putting it is like oils or flavor oils absorb um, into things. Now, is there really going to be taste? Generally not, and that's why things are more lenient than you think. And there are those who say today that the glazed
Mhm.
dinnerware is like glass and it's not going to absorb. So yeah, that many people in America don't rely on the idea of glass being neutral. And I think you sometimes see like glass sometimes does get dirty with stuff, or colorations can get on it. So can you
To make it kosher?
no, because it's gonna again, glass doesn't need to be kosher generally, but if it gets disgusting, it's gonna be hard to kosher because it'll crack under heat, right? So you can't apply direct heat to it.
Even a dishwasher gets hot.
So we'll talk about a dishwasher, but that you're talking about glass, right?
Yeah, glass,
Yeah.
like glass dishes.
Glass dishes
Yeah.
or yeah. So I guess if you're asking the question about glass and using it both ways, I would say the general custom is not to do that. But if you are careful and you make sure that it's always cleaned off very well and there's no residue at all, then you can rely on using glass both ways.
Thank you.
No, that's certainly true for cups that are not used for hot liquids. Cups, you only need one set of cups, one set of like dinner cups, because one of the rules here is that when we're getting to taste, and maybe we'll skip ahead because we're talking so much about taste, we should look at the original source. But when it comes to cups, when it comes to cold, taste exchange doesn't happen. Cold liquids, it needs heat. That's at least according to halacha. There needs to be some heat for taste to move out of one thing into and be absorbed in something else. So, for instance, if you have milk in a plastic cup or a glass cup or a metal cup or any cup for that matter, cold milk, and you drink it, all you got to do is rinse it out and it's parov again.
That's interesting.
Okay. Because it didn't absorb any taste. Now, if it was hot milk, then we would have a problem. And again, the realities of their vessels is a little different than ours, though they did have a lot of metal vessels. Their earthenware was not like ours. Their earthenware was much more absorbent. So when we think about like stuff that absorbs, we're talking about earthenware, like clay that's not glazed, and that really does absorb flavor. And that's where we have like a lot of problems. But then they look at today's dishes and they say, well, does this follow the category of earthenware? Well, it is earthenware, but it also has this kind of glaze over it that protects it from absorption. So that then in many ways it puts it in the category of glass. Can you kosher it? Yeah, but the problem is people won't get it hot enough to kosher it because it's gonna crack. Okay. Let's turn. I brought some on page 3 at the bottom.
Here we go. If you had a set of dishes that you inherited, but you don't know how it was used.
Okay, so
what do you do?
So you have a set of dishes that you inherited, and you don't know if it was used for
Milk replacement.
I think you could go on an assumption
Mhm.
that, oh, you're saying it was used
No,
kosher, or it could be used for pig.
It was for kosher. Okay, like, so for Adam's parents, they have a lot of dishware. I don't know whether it's milk, if it's
What they
ever
used it
used, or
for.
if it was milk at
Ah.
kosher.
So there's a couple things. One is there's a strong opinion that if they are not used for a year,
Yeah.
then there's no flavor left. So you can at that point use them again.
I have dishes too that my parents had and they used for Pesach, but I don't know if it was milk or fleischer.
Yeah, so if you just keep them in boxes, if you just keep them in boxes for a while, and then clean them and make sure there's no residue of anything on them. There's probably not, just dust. Then you're okay. Okay.
Same thing with Pesach, if you, from regular dishes, like, if there were dishes, could I? use them
Yes,
for
if
Pesach?
like right,
The same
if
thing.
they've been sitting. Now, this is not true for true earthenware,
Okay.
meaning if it's real china that is like absorbs,
Like Lennox China?
not like Lennox.
Lennox is glazed.
Lennox is glazed. I'm
Okay.
saying unglazed.
What about glass?
Glass is fine.
Okay.
Glass you can.
Okay, so how do you know? If you
And there's
look
a-
at it and it's shiny, is it glazed?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
that's practical,
I'd
okay,
be hard
Though-
pressed to find something not glazed.
If it's painted on,
yeah, then it's not.
then it's not glazed. If it's like, yeah, some of these old antique stuff is
Yeah.
like painted, hand painted.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, thanks.
When it comes to hot, you need different sets. So like for teacups, you should have a fleischic set of teacups and a milchik set of teacups. Because the heat, it can transfer taste and yeah. Okay, so on the bottom of page 3, I took some quotes out of the Talmud. V'hai mishares lahachi hu de'asa. So they're talking about a nazir. Everyone remember what a nazir is? A nazir is a person like Samson who takes on an oath not to cut their hair and not to eat any grape products. So grape
No
products,
wine.
no wine, no grape juice, no seeds. And it says even the water that the grapes were sitting in,
Yeah.
they can't drink. So mishras, like soaked, litain tam ki'ikr, to teach us that taste is like the thing itself. I mean, there's a debate. What I'm saying is there's a debate whether or not taste is a thing or whether we should just ignore it. So obviously you can't eat pig, but let's say you cook pig in a pot and then you dump it all out, and maybe there's a little bit of oil, but there's nothing you could see, just maybe some oil in it. And then you cook your rice. Well, guess what that rice is going to taste like? A little bit. A little bit of pork in that rice.
Even if you don't taste it, you're probably gonna feel like you taste it.
Now that leads to a concept called bittul. Bittul means stuff gets nullified by a larger amount. So let's say, so there's a lot of reasons, and here's one way to think about this. When it comes to kashrut, the rabbis were trying to help you eat it. Like they were in kashrut, the rabbis were like, if you read, when you're learning kashrut in yeshiva, it's always like, how do we make this kosher? Sometimes you can't, but the rabbis were like generally trying to be lenient, because if they make this chicken not kosher, nobody's eating. It's not like you're going back to Market Maven. Nobody's eating that night. The kids go hungry. So the rabbis were very, and the laws are, because if you think about it, it just says, don't eat this animal. Since when do we get to pots and pans and silverware? So it's already a big step, and that step is this tam ki'ikr. The taste is like the thing itself.
But if you.
But if you cook it in 60 times the amount of rice of the taste, there's not a lot of oil on the sides. Maybe there's like, let's say there's oil left over, and maybe it's like it could be 1 drop. And let's say you have, a pound of rice that you're cooking. And it really, when it comes to it's interesting. The Talmud has like two ways to do it. The best way to do it is to get a non-Jew to taste it. Now, they even say that you should get an expert, like an expert taster, like a chef. Take it to the chef and say,
What do you taste?
do you taste anything in here besides rice? And if they taste it, now that's not always easy and it's not always possible. And they even stopped trusting the non-Jewish chefs. So they made a number that, like, at this point, taste is no longer applicable. And that number is 1 in 60.
But if you clean something really well, there won't be any oil left over.
There'll be a little, if you looked at it through a microscope, there'd probably be a little bit of something. And you're right. So what you're saying is, there really isn't any molecules that get absorbed in metal.
Right, it's just a matter of.
Nothing makes it through the dishwasher.
Right.
Now, you should remember that there wasn't a dishwasher and there wasn't soap or detergent back in the day. They
Right.
just kind of rinsed it out and maybe wiped it out,
Right,
right? So there's always was a residue of grease.
okay, but that doesn't apply now.
You could argue that.
Okay.
You
You
could,
just did.
you can argue that it doesn't apply now, but if you did, you'd have a very good point, but it's not where the Orthodox Jewish community went.
Okay.
But meaning, you're right, there's some science to this, you hear?
Yeah.
There's science to this, but we've kind of been more strict than probably the Gemara would require. Because remember, we're talking about taste again. That also leads to some things that are not bittul. For instance, spices, something that its whole purpose is taste,
Mhm.
is not bittul. Like even if you 1 drop of the spice,
Spice is not milk liquor inflation.
but let's say you have a spice that has like lard in it or something.
Oh, okay.
Like
so
something-
You're not allowed to have it at all.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
this is like the main like flavor thing.
And so there's no bittul with that.
There's no bittul when it comes to things like that. Okay, so they learn from this, like that the Nazir's not allowed to drink this water that the grapes were sitting in. Now you'd say, like, wait a second, well, he's just drinking water. He's just drinking a little bit of juice water. And it's not the grape. He's not eating a grape. He's just eating some juice water. And the answer is juice water is grapes.
Well, I can see where you could have grape molecules because the grape isn't, not, if the skin's not intact, some of it's gonna leak into the water.
Sure, right.
So, okay, but then to take that and make it something else.
Right. Well, we're just getting to the idea that Tom Kicker, that taste is like the thing itself.
Okay.
Mikan atadan the Torah kula. From there, we expand it to the whole Torah. Rabbi Akiva Tam Kicker minale. Rabbi Akiva has a different source. Yalef me basar bechalav. He learns it from meat and milk. Okay, lav time about almahu ve'aser. Isn't when it comes to meat and milk? Let's say you have like a big pot of meat, and you pour it in some half and half. Another, like, right, half and half is milk, but it's like it's neither here nor there. It just disappears. It's just flavor. In other words, it's just flavor. Meaning something solid that you could see is the thing. Something that's liquid, it becomes like a flavor. And is it a problem to cook meat and milk? Of course, it's a problem.
Sure.
So they say that's just like right there and like there and then. If you take the meat out and you're like, should I eat this? Like the milk is still over there, right? Like the milk, like let's say you boiled it in milk and then you take it out, wipe off all that milk. Now I'm going to eat this meat.
No.
No, because the milk was absorbed, the flavor of the milk was absorbed in the meat.
Right.
Now, some would argue that that's just a special case, that it's really weird because these are something completely okay, and now they're both completely not okay. So it's a weird, so some say that's not a good source because it is an exception. Right? Meat and milk are an exception. So Ella Yalef Migi Ule Goyim. So rather, we actually learn it from the pots of the Goyim. So this is talking about a war, and when you go out to war, and you get booty, and generally, like what's the booty that you bring home? A new dinnerware set from Oneida, right? So, they it says in the Torah that you're supposed to purge it. You're supposed to purge it and then put it in the mikvah. Why are we purging it? Put it in boiling water. Why are we purging? Why are we putting this stuff in boiling water?
Because we don't know what was in it.
But what does it matter what's in it? There's no pig on it.
No, but
It's just an empty pot.
Any pits in the metal?
And maybe there's a little dent in the metal and something went in. So that's the issue with metal, meaning that generally you think, well, what is it really absorbing? But there's a lot of, if you look there with a microscope, you'll see a lot of openings.
Important
Uh,
impurities then.
What?
That's impurities.
Well, you'd prove from this that, hey, we're worried about the taste. We're worried about whatever's absorbed in this big pot. You got a pot in war. Who knows what they cooked in it? Before you use it, you better boil it. Right? That's the best source. Nobody disagrees with it. That's the source.
Okay, when you boil it, and it has a handle, do you have to boil the handle too, since food never touches the handle?
Who could touch the handle though?
When you kosher a pot,
Gotta be oil.
every part of it has to touch the water, but not at the same time.
Okay.
So if you have a pot that's too big to do all in it, like well, let's say when I kosher for Pesach, I get the biggest pot I have,
Mhm.
and then I dip everything else in it. But let's say there's something that doesn't fit in. You could do half and then turn it around and do the other half. Okay.
Same with the mikvah.
No, mikvah needs to be all at once, the whole thing.
What's the difference between totaling it and koshering it?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that. Okay, it's fine. So is everybody, we're on the same page? We've seen the sources in the Torah for where they derive that taste is a problem. And once taste is a problem, now we have modern kashrut in our kitchen, right? And milchik and fleishik stuff. So let's go back. I wanna start with that first question. This is more of a practical question. Somebody who wants to kosher their home. What's the best method of doing it? Step by step, meaning, this month I'm gonna kosher this month I'm gonna start only bringing in kosher food. And next month I'm gonna kosher the dishwasher. And then next month I'm gonna kosher the thing, or just all in one fell swoop. Or even the whole thing about only bringing in kosher food, that's a huge step. Maybe somebody should say, you know what? I'm just gonna stop bringing in shellfish and pork, right? And then I'm gonna stop mixing milk and meat, but I'm not gonna get new dishes. What do you think? And I'm just very curious here what people think. As a rabbi, what should I encourage people to do? Everything, like one fell swoop, go kosher, or bit by bit?
It depends if they wanna have people that keep kosher in their house.
It depends on their goals.
Yeah.
It depends on how much they can afford to do at the same time.
So it depends. So if they come and they say, "Hey, Rabbi, I want to be completely kosher," I'm not going to be like, "Nah, actually, you should only go halfway in." But it's just, I guess everybody who's here on this class is sort of by definition being encouraged to be a little bit more kosher than they currently are, or if you're not completely kosher. And I think I'm always a fan of incremental steps. So if you're not ready to go all in, that's not an excuse to not do anything. Like, take a step.
Maybe you're just buying kosher food and you don't have any of the dishes are not kosher food for anything, then you would simply have paper plates and you know, you can serve paper plates, you use it once, you throw it away. And then
Right.
Same
Right.
with plastic utensils.
Or just use your regular plates and say, I'm not ready to use kosher plates yet, but I'm on my way. I'm getting kosher food now. And so there's like, yeah, I mean, obviously you want to get to the place where you're doing everything properly, no question. Okay, so basar, chalav, parav, 2 sets. Hechsher. Let's talk about hechsher. Jeff in the beginning started talking about that. What is a hechsher?
Symbol that some person, some rabbi or.
Said that it's
Kosher.
yeah, hechsher from the word kosher. And it is does a hechsher mean that it's 100% kosher?
Depends on the picture.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
No.
So there's a famous story about this butcher in Muncie, one of the most respected butchers, and they were very suspicious because the chicken never had any feathers. And all kosher chicken has nasty feathers. So finally they went in and they found all this Purdue chicken in the back being repackaged. But this was a very kosher butcher. So again, I ask you, if it has a hechsher, does it mean it's kosher?
No.
No, but it is the certification of a rabbi, who's called the Rav HaMachshir, the Rav who's giving the hechsher, or a mashkiach who's there watching the process. So the Rav HaMachshir is the rabbi who's not the mashkiach. The rabbi is the one who says, hey, I'm going to send a mashkiach. I'm going to tell him what to do. And I'm going to trust that, we verified enough that everything here is kosher. So I believe to the best of my abilities that that what I'm putting my certification on truly is kosher.
No, I do have an issue on that because there was a major issue in New York where the 5-town rabbis did not recognize Strites Matzah's hechsher was Rabbi Soloveitchik.
Yes.
They think that they wouldn't recognize it as being a national kosher symbol, so the Star K not Star K, Kov K may have mixed
And they all make big things.
over it.
So this is a great question, and here's my opinion on this. I'm generally lenient with hechshers, though some hechshers I don't use just because I want people in the community to feel comfortable eating in my home. So for instance, I would feel totally fine with Hebrew National. It's not Galat, but there's a very respected rabbi who says it's kosher, and I'm not going to be the one who says this rabbi doesn't know what he's talking about. But the generally accepted tradition in the Orthodox community is not to use Hebrew National, and so I don't cook it at my barbecues because it's just I don't want to make people uncomfortable who want to eat in my house.
So what are so how do you know when you see a hechsher, which ones are in and which ones?
So Zalman has this. Zalman brought this.
Yes,
There's a
talk
whole.
about the refrigerator. One thing
Yes, we have a refrigerator on the refrigerator at Shul, and if
But-
anybody
but
wants this,
I have things missing on there because on that hechsher, listed hechsher doesn't have the KS.
yes. So
Which facilitates Strites Matzah being not,
yes.
that's what I. what's up
The
in
one
Chicago.
that's very prevalent, that is problematic,
Triangle
no, is tablet K.
K?
Triangle
Maybe.
K, even though it says there that they don't trust it.
Little Debbie cakes.
Well, the Hebrew National is Triangle K. The Triangle K meat is a problem. Anything else Triangle K is fine. Like Hawaiian Punch is Triangle K, and you're fine to have Hawaiian Punch.
So triangle
but-
K is okay except for meat.
But I don't recommend drinking Hawaiian Punch for health reasons. But
Okay.
other than
No.
that, you
I
probably
heard
get
that-
enough Red 40 for a year.
I heard that
The Gale
Little Debbie
doesn't have
cakes
all the hextures on
had
it,
a
it's
picture on it that
recognized.
wasn't
Well,
trusted.
I've never.
So
seen
I don't know what
that.
the Little
In
Debbie
the
Cakes has,
Eric
but
directory,
the
which is-
main one that's
Check this
Can't
out.
both talk.
the main one that is problematic is the tablet K. And you'll see that it's very prevalent on cheeses, and the reason is because, look at the bottom. You see it, you see the two tablets and a K? That one, you will see that everywhere. You'll see that on all kinds of cheeses.
Yeah.
You'll see it on Amy's products, you know, Amy's.
Oh,
Mhm.
Amy's is a tablet K. And it's unfortunate because they have a lot of good products, but what they do is they rely on a leniency when it comes to cheese. That is not an orthodox. It's a conservative hechsher. And the conservative movement's more lenient when it comes to cheese. And they're relying on something that's somewhat reasonable in halacha, but it's not where the Orthodox community is. There was a time where like you could just eat cheese, right? People would just eat cheese. Even there's an argument of rennet. So to make cheese, there's an enzyme that gets scraped from the inside of a pig's
That's
stomach,
from Chicago.
or a cow's stomach for that matter. Either way, it's an enzyme that causes the curdling to happen. In halacha, like we avoid it because it's meat, but in halacha,
Goat.
it could be goat stomach too. And there is vegetable rennet. There's ways to get cheese to curdle without using this, but generally what do you call someone who's a cheesemaker? It's got to be a word for it. Not a vintner is somebody who makes wine. Anyways,
Cheesehead.
right?
But
The what's his name? The Cheetos cheetah, the cheesy cheetah. He'd want animal rennet because that's like the right way to make cheese, the old way to make cheese. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not okay because rennet is not a food. It's like in halacha, it's considered like afra ba'alma. It's like dirt. Like an enzyme is like is dirt kosher?
I guess.
No, dirt is dirt. It's not kosher. It's not kosher. It's not food.
Can you eat it?
Meaning the idea of kosher only applies to something that is food.
Is it a vera to eat dirt?
No,
Okay.
but it's also not recommended.
Right.
But for normal
They say a
people.
kid's gotta eat his pound of dirt to get his immune system.
So bottom line is rennet falls in that category. Also, another example of something very similar is what's that stuff they use in marshmallows?
Gelatin.
Gelatin is ground up pig hooves.
Not kosher.
It is.
It is kosher. Well, it's not kosher and it's not kosher. It's a hoof. A hoof is not food.
No, but the gelatin's not kosher.
What I'm telling you is gelatin is not kosher and it isn't unkosher. It's not kosher or unkosher.
It's not
It's
food.
dirt.
It's not a food.
But just like rennet, the Orthodox community does not rely on that and has come to the place, even like in Israel, they'll see gelatin in things. In Israel, they're still okay with gelatin.
These fish gelatin.
No, they'll use real gelatin, but because
They make kosher marshmallows.
they use fish gelatin.
Oh.
They use fish gelatin. If you boil fish bones, you get the same jelly. So bottom line is, at the end of the day, we don't use animal rennet and we don't use gelatin. That's the halacha that the Orthodox community accepts here in America. So tablet K, which says, hey, we can use the rennet and we're not gonna worry about like watching the any oversight.
Was that?
It's a problem. Okay. Now, when I say it's a problem, I would say sociologically, if you want people to eat in your house and think your house is kosher, you don't bring in tablet K. Personally, I wouldn't bring in tablet K, but if you want to, or if you're on vacation somewhere and you're like, hey, this is what there is, I'm not going to tell you it's terrible, but it's not relied upon. Yes, right. Most Orthodox people, even on vacation, won't eat tablet K, because especially tablet K,
You know,
maybe
you
more
men-
so than Hebrew National. Hebrew
mentioned-
National is under a reliable rabbi. It's just they don't
Right.
trust the process. Whereas the Tablet K relies on specific halachic ideas that are not acceptable.
I asked Rabbi Chiswell because at one time he was a supervising rabbi for Triangle K, for some organ place that he supervised it, but so he Rabbi Chiswell was very stickler when it comes to kosher, so
Yes, that the Triangle K, I think got a bad rap, unfortunately.
Sometimes like you'll use like if you see like olives or some kind of like pickled something, it has a picture from Peru. It has a picture of Peru.
think
I would,
that's on there.
I would
It's on
in
there.
general trust Hechsherim.
Yeah.
Again, the main one that you just
Is
have to
Tablet
is
K.
the Tablet K, and that's very prevalent.
Does someplace like, 7 Mile, do they not carry those other ones?
They wouldn't carry
So
it.
Tablet K
No,
would
you'll
be
never
so
find
great
it at
to
7
your
Mile.
he
state.
goes directly.
Yes,
Yeah.
No.
yes. If you anything at 7 Mile
I
or
don't even have to check. for it.
You-
I don't check.
well,
for
some
any-
people do because like they make mistakes too. That's the whole thing. Meaning, I'll tell you, I was at Market Maven last Pesach, and there was all this like complete chametz in the kosher Pesach aisle, and I almost bought it. And then I was like, how could this be? They do, but just because they drape it doesn't mean that they did
Yeah.
that somebody didn't miss something, or that they.
They have help that might not know
Yeah.
everything.
Right, correct. So bottom line is you still it's like that thing. If you buy something in 7 Mile or Market Maven, you can be 99.9% sure it's kosher. At the same time, you're still just relying on people saying,
Right.
so
Is there ever been a case where a company used the OU and didn't have, wasn't?
permission?
Yeah, permission.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
there's plenty of
definitely.
case law about that.
Yeah, I think they'll get a cease and
It's a crime.
desist very
It's
quickly.
actually a crime.
To use, the
to
question
use-
was to use a hexture that you didn't actually
Hey,
earn.
Yeah,
It's a crime in New York.
But anybody
Use
can
a hexture
write,
that's-
anybody, and this you should know, actually another thing, anybody can write K on a product, anybody can write kosher on a product. They don't even need a rabbi. Anybody can write kosher on their product and they can't be sued. So if it says kosher, that for sure is avoid. If it just says kosher or K.
Okay.
It means that they probably have good intentions,
No, they don't.
but they're really, there's no certification there.
That means they really are not honest at all.
Right.
or they're ignorant.
Right. Okay, so let's get in. Anybody have any questions on anything we've talked about? Nope. Okay, let's get into koshering. Who's ready to talk about koshering? So you've decided you're gonna make your house into a kosher home. Or you already have a kosher home, but it comes Pesach and it's time to turn it into a kosher Pesach home. How do you do it? It's the same process. The same, you take a trip. You close up your house and take a trip. Nope. Koshering is the act of removing the tam, the flavor. That's really what you're doing when you're koshering. You're trying to remove the flavor. So keep that in mind so you don't do crazy things.
But wait a minute, for Pesach.
Like, is there flavor in your wall?
Hold on a minute, but for Pesach, it's not a question of flavor, it's a question of hummus, which is not all about taste, it's about hummus. So to
But-
kosher for Pesach, you're not worried about flavor, are you?
Yeah, you're worried about the flavor of the chametz. Meaning, if there's actual chametz, then for sure you're worried about it. But why can't we just use your plate? Because we're worried that the flavor of the chametz is absorbed in your plate.
Okay.
Why can't you use your fork? What's chametzy about this fork? Well, we're worried that the flavor of chametz is absorbed in the fork.
Okay, question.
Again, realize how like how cautious we're being, right? We're being super cautious, and that way, if something gets messed up, it's almost always okay, because we're taking steps to be very cautious, So when you mess up, you're generally not even doing anything that bad.
Okay. So when you do get ready for Pesach, you know, the kitchen, you know, what about the counters? What about?
Okay, we're gonna get into everything.
Okay.
Let's go back to page 1.
Okay,
First step of any koshering is to get rid of any real flavor, grease. So obviously it goes out saying if you're gonna kosher your countertops, clean them. If you're gonna kosher your oven, clean it. Like get in there with some elbow grease and get the grease out of it. That makes certain things very hard to kosher, like a barbecue where the grates are just covered in like a thick layer of goo and grease. You could burn the heck out of it. But generally, you know, meaning like, let's say you run your barbecue on full blast for an hour, okay? That'll probably burn through anything that's there, even a half hour, right? How it's gonna get super hot. All the grease is just gonna become nothing but black carbon.
yes.
You're good to go. If you do that, you are good to go. The grates need to heat up to like super heated, like burning hot, like lighting up type of hot.
Would we be?
That's why people often use a blowtorch, because that's like a better way, a quicker and better way to get there. But you can get there by just going it at full blast and blasting it. But still, even with that being said, it's recommended before you do any koshering. So even you know, I guess the exception they say, like for instance, the rabbis will say you don't have to really clean it, spot clean it if you're gonna self clean an oven. But I still think you're better off giving it a degreasing before you kosher anything. Okay, does that make
So
sense?
it's okay, you're only worried about the grates, you're not worried about the sides of the barbecue.
Well, you worry about that too. You worry about the whole thing to clean it off.
Yeah.
But again, if you're gonna superheat, which you're gonna do anyways, in order to get the barbecue okay, you're gonna put it up to full blast and run it for over 30 minutes. Anything that's in there is gonna get
No,
completely consumed.
I get that, but what I'm. It's only the grates that come in contact with the food.
So
Yes,
you're better-
but all kinds of juices gets
Right,
like
they could go up to the top and then come down again. They
So
could-
you're
they
best,
could-
you're just better off getting separate grates for Pesach then.
right. So that's another option. Another option, which is probably easier, is just getting new grates.
Yeah, but then what about the sides? I mean, it's the same.
Well,
thing.
that's easy to clean. The
But again, like
grill,
you
then
said-
there's the grates.
The grates are harder to clean than the
Yeah.
sides.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah.
But there's like stuff on the bottom and, you know, I mean, that's what I'm trying to ask.
Right. So you don't have to have it so completely clean that
Is it,
it's
is
like a
the only
new
thing that comes
barbecue.
in contact
Oh,
with the
right.
food?
The grates, the stuff that comes in contact with the food is the main
Okay.
issue.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Good idea. Maybe I'll
Well,
go get new
when we
grates.
koshered our grill, we bought all new parts for it.
Yeah.
Okay. So an
We did.
oven. What are you going to do with your oven? You're going to clean it of the grease, and then you're going to run it on self-clean or at 550 degrees or on broil for 40 minutes. Okay.
How'd they come up with that number?
No idea. Some rabbi just decided that that's long enough to get it really hot.
We
Um,
did it for 35 minutes and it didn't work.
Air fryers. I don't think they're worth koshering. I have an air fryer. It's so greasy and so messy. I mean, you really have to work. You have to really work hard to kosher this. And if you tried to kosher it, you'd probably end up like messing it up.
It's hard to
So
find toaster every day. My mother.
so air fryers, I just put I don't buy a used air fryer, and for Pesach, don't use your air fryer.
Pesach and one.
Or if you have that luxury and you can have I was talking to a friend today who whose mother had a whole second apartment just for Pesach. Like a whole, and an apartment went up for sale in their building down the hall. They bought it and just kept it for guests who didn't eat it in there and Pesach.
Did she have to search for chametz in it?
No, I don't know because they never brought any food in there.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
It's extreme.
Right. Stovetop.
You think thinks more of that person than they would of somebody else that works for it?
I don't know. I'm not gonna get into what God thinks. Stovetop. So there's stovetops that are electric. Those things you just turn on for 5-10 minutes at full blast because the surface itself is what gets hot. It self-koshers. Grates, if you have a gas oven, those grates should be cleaned of the grease, if there's any grease. Generally, there's not. And then put it into the oven when you kosher your oven. Okay, does that make sense? Now, what is your stovetop made of? If it's metal, you can kosher that surface. So metal surfaces, granite, let's say granite countertops, you can kosher by pouring boiling water on them. I don't know that you have to do that.
What about
It's kind of nice to do that because then you just use your countertops like you do. I mean, to kosher them to begin with, but for Pesach,
Mhm.
I often just put down towels and I put anything hot. I mean, you could put down, again, remember the hot thing and the cold thing? You can put plates, you can put your matzah directly on your counter without koshering it.
Mhm.
There's not going to be any chametz that goes from a cold counter into your matzah. I mean, I don't mean leave crumbs. Obviously, you have to clean it.
Yeah.
But koshering it, the issue is when you put something hot on it.
Well, if you have something that prevents hot things from going on it.
Right. So that's why I just put
Like a
some couple
trivet?
towels, either
Like a trivet, like a
either
specific-
kosher Pesach trivets,
Yeah.
or I put some towels just on the parts of the
Mhm.
the countertop that I want to put my pots on. And then, you're good.
So when you say enamel, you mean like those cooktops that.
So
are-
old school, they don't make anything out of enamel anymore.
It used to be that white stuff in it with a chip.
But enamel is like earthenware and absorbs, and it's a big problem.
Okay.
So let's say you have an enamel anything, you gotta cover it. If you're gonna put hot stuff on it, you gotta cover it with like aluminum foil. Or remember did anybody used to put like linoleum over everything in their kitchen?
Yeah, I did that.
Anybody ever used to do that?
I did that for a while. Then
I-
then
what-
got smart.
When I was at my first job, I was in charge of the shul kitchen and I made a big Seder. And I had gotten aluminum foil from Costco and the kitchen looked like a spaceship. Like I just made the whole kitchen was covered in aluminum foil.
I've seen that.
And again, you don't really have to do that. If you want to kosher it, you can pour boiling water on a stovetop or a countertop. Have a lot of towels right there because you don't want the water getting inside. You don't do anything that's going to ruin your.
What about steam? What about?
So that's another one that works is a steam cleaner.
Yeah.
A steam cleaner can work. I honestly don't buy it because I've seen a steam cleaner and they don't really get that hot, but they say steam cleaners work. So
We talked about this before. Our countertops are porcelain.
your countertops are porcelain.
Porcelain.
Yeah, so that you can't kosher that. So what would I do? Either cover it with a sticky thing or aluminum foil, or just put a towel down and instead of putting any hot things
Right.
directly on the countertop, just put it on
But
the
it's not
towel.
kosher then, is it? You can't put anything, you can't put any.
If it's
food.
cold, you can. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, if it's cold, you can, but a pot of hot things, put it on a trivet. Always keep it yeah. I mean, you probably wouldn't put it on there anyways because
I would, I can put anything.
oh,
on it.
because
It's
it's
right.
porcelain, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I don't put things directly on the porcelain.
Rabbi,
Yeah,
how do you kosher a dishwasher?
we're gonna get there.
Okay,
I have
Um,
one question about the cooktops, like the glass cooktop, like an induction one, that's just boiling water or steam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, did you say microwaves?
Dishwasher.
Dishwashers. Where did I do dishwasher?
Dishwasher's on page 3,
On page 3? Okay, we'll get to dishwashers on page 3.
not a big section.
No, okay, let's start with microwaves. Microwaves are interesting because there's no direct contact with the food and the microwave. So the issue in a microwave is called zea, which is steam. Steam can also, there's a further fight in the Talmud, can steam carry flavor?
Sure.
I bet it could.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah, steam can carry flavor. So that's the way it goes in is the way it goes out. To kosher a microwave, you clean it, let it sit for 24 hours, and then boil water in it. Put a bowl of water and let it boil, like let it run until it boils. And the steam from that water will neutralize the steam of whatever non-kosher stuff was in there.
Okay,
You could also use that to change a microwave from fleshik to milk.
so you have, okay, so you have to wait 24 hours?
Now, here's the 24-hour thing. Let's go back to page 4. This is a really helpful, this may be the most helpful aspect of making things kosher, which is kol nosein tam lifgam mutter. Anything that gives off a bad taste is allowed, is kosher. Like, so for instance, nevela even, like roadkill, we talked about that yesterday. If it's rotten, it's not kosher. Rotten meat is not kosher. Because rotten pig is not kosher because it's, remember, we're worried here about food and flavor. And if it's nasty,
You won't eat it.
then it's not food or flavor. Right. So it becomes, okay, so that's already an interesting thing. But the rabbis go further and they say after 24 hours, any taste is nosein tam lifgam. After 24 hours, tastes go bad. 24 hours at room temperature, oils you don't really want,
So,
the residue.
okay,
So but we don't rely on that a priori. We don't be like, okay, well, it's been 24 hours, so I'm just gonna, use this pig grease. We kosher it anyways, but what's called b'di'evad, if somebody comes to me and says, "Oy, Rabbi, I cooked meat in this milchik pot," I'm going to ask them, well, was it used for milk within the last 24 hours? And if the answer is no, that changes tremendously the answer of, yeah, you can eat the meat because whatever taste was in there was pagam,
and
was
then you
gross.
gotta wait 24 more hours and then you can go back to being milk.
No, you'd still have to kosher it to
Okay.
make it go back and forth, but it's really for it when mistakes happen, we rely on nosein tam lifgam. When mistakes happen, we don't rely on it a priori. We get rid of any flavors. But let's say your food gets messed up because of something. That's one of the first ways to make it not a big deal.
Question, so if you heat up coffee with milk in it, then you can't just put in like a fleshik sandwich to heat it up.
Wait, one more
Without
time.
waiting 24 hours.
We're talking about a microwave.
Yeah, microwave.
Yeah. So if you uncovered like milchik coffee and then uncovered meat, yeah, that could be a problem.
But if it's covered,
If you cover it, then zea is no longer a problem.
Wouldn't be covered with just a napkin?
no, I think probably with like saran wrap or something, but I also have these covers.
Yeah, anything that will cover it to
It's
keep.
not aluminum foil in the microwave.
No,
Can't put it
It's
in
also
microwave,
it's also
in the
sort of
fire.
unclear when they say steam. Sometimes stuff sprays.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That happens every time I cook chicken
Well,
in
that's
the
why I have
in
one-
the
that's why I have one
microwave.
of These things that catches all the sprays.
Right. So if you have the thing that catching the sprays, then you're good.
Okay.
Because again, you're not cooking it directly on anything. You're
Yeah, I'm cooking it in.
you're
in a-
cooking in something, right? Does this make sense, everybody?
Rabbi, what about your refrigerator?
We'll get there. We'll get to the refrigerator.
Okay, so.
So relying on no same tam lifgam, this idea of after 24 hours, you know, the flavor is not gonna affect things anymore. That's why you'll hear this 24-hour thing come up. Like when we're gonna kosher our dishwasher, we're gonna wait 24 hours, we're gonna clean it, run it, wait 24 hours, run it again. Empty, we're talking about. So we'll get to that. Same thing with the microwave. You're gonna clean it, wait 24 hours, and then do the boiling. Okay. Now utensils. How do you kosher utensils and pots and metal things?
Don't want to boil water.
You dunk them in boiling water. What's the process of that? Well, you can always take it to Rabbi Shapiro. I'm happy to boil it for you because it's not always easy. But you get a pot boiling, like a real boil, and you put the stuff in, and it has to be in the water. The water is boiling. You take it using tongs and you rinse it in cool water. That's part of the process. You have to, after you take it out of the boiling water, you put it rinse it off in cool water. So whenever I kosher things, I have like a big pot of cool water next to the pot of hot water. Okay.
You can blanch your utensils.
Okay.
But all
The only other question that we kind of covered is if there's something, let's say you have a really long knife that doesn't fit in the pot, you can do half of it and then do the other half of it.
But
Yeah.
that's even if the handle's like plastic.
Yeah, I would still dip the handle.
And it won't ruin the knife?
No, I've dipped plastic. Plastics you shouldn't use for milchik inflation. Plastics should either be milchik or flashik. They definitely absorb. Plastic absorbs. It's a lot like earthenware.
So silicone also.
Silicon, that I don't know. I don't even know what silicon really. Oh, those
The rubbery thing.
the rubbery stuff. Yeah, I would think that's the same, that it absorbs.
How long do you have to put it into the boiling water?
Instantaneous. So you drop it in and then you take it out with the tongs. You could yeah.
Yeah, if my mother knew that, if she knew that, it would save us a lot of trouble. If you used a milk knife on meat, she would tell you go out and bury it.
That's what my
And I
father,
would say, well, how long? She said, till I tell you. We used to bury
Yeah.
the knife.
Yeah. Okay, so as we said, let's talk about sinks. Sinks that are metal are easily kosherable. You just got to clean them and then pour boiling water on them. That's very simple. If it's porcelain or china, then it's not kosherable, and people will generally use like some kind of rack or a tub in the bottom of the sink.
now, when it comes to countertops, do you have a milchik countertop and a flashik? Or can you use that for
And
everything?
No, you can. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you can use it for everything.
Do you can,
Yeah, now that's an interesting question. Why?
What's the question?
do you have a milchik countertop and a flashik countertop that you work on?
It's a good question. Why not? Meaning, like, if we're worried about the taste absorption,
And everything.
then why can you put the pot with
But even if you make a sandwich, even if you.
well, remember,
making-
sandwiches, anything that's not hot is not a problem.
Oh, hold on.
But if we're taking a milk thing off the heat and putting it on the
Right,
countertop,
yeah,
taking a meat thing off the thing and putting it on the countertop in the same place.
But wait a minute, but if you took a pot, the countertop's not gonna pick up the taste of what's in the pot. Isn't that secondary? I mean,
Yeah.
so you put the pot on the countertop, it doesn't turn into a milk countertop.
Mm,
I mean, if you're making deli. And you're making a cheese sandwich. but-
no, it shouldn't. But I think there's like
Consider it.
this kind of fiction that
Isn't
that the
that the
taste will
reason?
go through.
Well, isn't that the reason why you can use a blech? Because it's not the direct heating up, it's the secondary source.
Well, that's the Shabbos law. It's a
No, but I mean, but
different thing.
Paul Homer there, if you could do that, then obviously putting a hot pot onto a countertop doesn't turn the countertop into anything.
Right.
Okay, so now I have a question. Trivets, do you have to have milk trivets, inflation trivets? I mean, because I have pork ones.
People
I
do.
too, But
They
but
do?
but the food's not sitting on it.
I know it's not, but he just said that the convention is.
You know
that
what?
it's-
I don't want to give you an answer. I have to really look into this. My gut is, and I guess it's because it's something that I've never really understood, that there is a sense that the flavor goes through the pot, even though it doesn't. So
Right.
that's where it's off a little bit in my head. So trivets, yeah, I mean, I believe that on that concept that the flavor does go through.
So all my trivets are messed up.
Mine are too.
Yeah, but let me
Look into.
look into the trivet thing. I'll have to get back to you on that, okay?
Look into the-
And the trivet and the countertops.
Can it also be that food can spill over the pot, and on the bottom of the pot, you might have something on it?
That's for sure a problem.
What?
If the food spills out, if something leaks out on the side,
Yeah, especially when you're scooping it out, you know, it might fall out of the ladle or something.
yeah, that would for sure be a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about sinks, we've talked about all the utensils, we talked about countertops, dishwashers. Who's ready for dishwashers? Dara's ready for dishwashers. Okay, dishwashers are not as hard as you'd think, but they're a little bit complicated, not a lot, but you have to make sure that it's clean, and that involves unscrewing in the middle. There is a trap, and getting into that trap and making sure there's no actual food residue in the trap or the filter. So you got to look at your manual. How do I clean the filter and the trap of the thing? So once you've done that, then you run it with soap, empty, wait 24 hours on the highest setting, by the way, the highest heat. So run it like the highest heat that your dishwasher has with soap, empty, wait 24 hours, do it again. I'm just being extra. You don't have to do it again, but I would do it again, and you are good. Your dishwasher is now totally kosher.
We were told if you have a plastic insert,
Yeah, that's.
cannot kosher that.
Yeah,
We don't, only a stainless steel.
yeah, I think it's fine because here's my thing. I don't think it ever got trafed up to begin with, because by definition, the stuff that goes into a dishwasher is no sein tam lifgam. It's gross. It's no longer food. And the moment that the detergent hits it, for sure it's no sein tam lifgam. Meaning what, like soap turns any food into non-food.
Well, if any parts of the plastic coming off and you see rust, that's probably not kosher.
Well, it's probably not healthy to eat rust.
Well, it's just little tiny pieces. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
This is my,
But it wouldn't be plastic if it was.
it is plastic.
It's plastic covered metal.
Wait,
Yeah.
I have a tip, Gail. You can get these little tips to put on top that cover up the rust.
Ooh, rust covers.
Yeah, yeah.
Gail looks like you just changed her life for the better. Anyways, anyways, bottom line is I don't think you have to worry about what your dishwasher's made of, whether it's metal, whether it's plastic. Just go through that process and you're good to go for dishwashers. Warming drawers, just clean out the crumbs. Same thing for a refrigerator. Like you buy a new house, though this is a funny story. I just remembered a very funny story. We bought our, when we first moved here, I became the rabbi here, and the people selling the house knew I was a rabbi, and they were like doing everything they can to like sell us this house. Like they were like, I said, do you ever get mosquitoes around here? And the wife was like, sometimes, and the husband's like, no, I've never seen a mosquito ever. And like that's he like looked at his wife, like, we've never seen a mosquito ever. I was like, so, and then he also said, he said, pig has never touched our kitchen. He said, pig never touched our kitchen. So when we bought the house, we're cleaning out the refrigerator because there was nothing in the refrigerator, but I lifted one of the drawers because we're really cleaning it, doing it, and there was like bacon under there, like some kind of sausage. Like pig never entered our house. It was great. So anyways, you gotta clean out the refrigerator, and that means using like spritz, wiping it down, but there's no koshering necessary because remember, has hot, and the definition of hot is what's called yad soletispo. The hand can't hold it. Meaning if your hand jerks back when you touch it, that's hot. If your hand can hold it, it's not hot enough to make flavor exchange.
So a warming drawer, if you clean it out, you don't have to do anything else.
Nope, you just clean it out because it's
okay.
not yad soletispo.
Okay.
I have a question going back to the oven. I have a double oven. I want to kosher the bottom one that I don't use a lot while Alex and Chuck are living with us.
Okay.
Can I do that and have the upper oven? I mean,
Yes.
I can kosher that
Yes.
easy.
Yes.
It's because they're self-cleaning.
Yes.
So I can do that.
Yes.
Because we've cleaned it really well already, we did.
Yeah.
Pesach?
And, no, just, they
For
lived
Alex.
in for a little while.
Okay.
And, I just wanna, because Alex keeps saying, we can't use the oven. Now, I did say, I will wrap it in aluminum foil like 100 times, and he allowed that. But it's.
Yeah, if you kosher, if you run it on the
Yeah.
clean, you're good to go.
Okay. And it's clean anyway, and it's always clean, because
Yeah.
I don't really use it that much.
Yeah, you're good to go.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
take the paper and check.
Okay, and anybody have more questions? Hey,
Rabbi,
Susan?
yes, Rabbi, I have a question. So back to the dishwasher for milk like a meat. Can you put milk in one time and then do you have to go through 24 hours to put meat in? If
It's a
it's
good
separated?
question. It's a good question. Based on what I was saying earlier about the moment the detergent hits, it's all nosing tam lifgam, then you can't, like, if you really wanted to be like more lenient with this, and it gets into the sociology of it, like what's accepted in the Orthodox community, but if you really wanted to do what I consider still kosher and take the lenient approach, yeah, you could run a milchik load and then run a fleshik load separately. Again, the complications are you got to make sure to take out any actual stuff. Like you can't put in the plates that have like full of meat chunks, though. Again, like it's really hard to argue that these meat chunks are actually meat once that thing kicks on. So yes, if you're asking me, is it on some halachic level, is it permissible to have one dishwasher and not put meat and milk together? You can't put meat and milk in the same run, but theoretically to go back and forth without waiting 24 hours, yes. But generally people don't do that. I would say, like, if you say, hey, Rabbi, all I care about is keeping kosher, and I only have one dishwasher and this is what's going to work, then I would tell you yes. A better step is to wait 24 hours between the runs, right? A better step than that is koshering it, like meaning run it on empty between if you have to run back and forth. But like again, sometimes people only have one dishwasher and that's what they're working with. So yeah, it's a good question. Anybody else?
What?
Anybody else have any questions? Anybody else have any questions?
So that I have a comment.
Yeah.
You know, you talked about the guy, the butcher up in
Yeah.
Muncie. The big machlokas there was the people who ate the chicken, did they commit an avera? And it was a huge debate over, look, you ate unkosher chicken.
Mm.
And they said, but
But
he
they
said it was
tested that,
kosher
right?
and,
That's
but
Yeah.
now we know it wasn't.
Yeah,
So did they commit the avera?
yeah, onus, yeah, doing something, but being forced into doing it.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
that's what you got Rosh Hashanah for.
So you got Rosh Hashanah for.
Rabbi,
Okay, is there anything that I missed? Yeah, hi there.
hi. So if you have a sink and it's not a double sink, how do you deal with washing? So currently I use use a bucket type of thing so that I'm not putting my dishes right into the sink because otherwise,
That's the right thing to do.
okay,
To have like a basin.
right.
Now theoretically, you could just put them in because the water that's going into the sink is not Yad Soletisbo, unless it is. Sometimes the water, put your water heater up there, put your hot water on and put your hand under it. And if at any point you can't, it's too hot to hold your hand there, then we're talking about Yad Soletitbo and taste exchange and not a good thing. So then I generally think, yeah, if you have one sink, it's best to use buckets, those bins or racks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Rabbi, what happens if you make a mistake and you use the wrong plate?
Okay, so let's say you are, or let's say it's my house, and this happens more than I'd like to admit. And I brought home some kind of like meat wraps, and one of the kids grabs a milchik plate and puts the meat wrap on the milchik plate. Tell me what is it? Is there an issue?
It's cold.
It's cold, no issue. Let's say they take the meat wrap and they rub it on the plate. They rub the meat side on the plate.
I would punch them.
Is it an issue?
No.
No, because it's cold. Okay, let's say they take the steak, they take a piece of steak, put it on a milchik plate, put it in the microwave, and
You gotta-
heat it up.
That's the problem.
Now you have a problem.
So what do you do?
That plate generally, unless you're gonna try to like wait a year, that plate is done. Like once,
The steak is too.
right? Now, a metal thing like a fork that was used in something hot, like let's say they stick a milchik fork in the steak, the hot steak, that milchik fork needs to be kosher.
With the
Okay.
boiling water.
But the steak's okay to eat.
That's a question of
How much?
the
amount?
percentage, right? The A bittel, B was the fork used for milk in the last 24 hours.
And how would you even know? It's in your.
Then it's once it's in the rack, it's suffake. It's like a
Okay.
who knows, and
Can you cut
we're
that
more
part of the
lenient.
steak out? It's not that.
You
Really,
could,
touch
but
it.
again, we're not really worried because the flavor is completely overwhelmed by the steak.
Why couldn't you kosher the plate?
As we said, people are afraid to get the plate hot enough because if you heat it up enough, you're probably gonna break it. It's probably gonna crack.
You didn't cover, one thing I really want you to cover is what is the difference between koshering and toveling?
Ah, we didn't do toveling. How did I miss? Oh, okay, fine. Let's go back to toveling. Yes.
Toveling is-
So, yes, it's
Okay.
on page one. Page one. So, there's one other aspect to having a kosher home, which is called toveling. And that's also from that thing that it says when they get the Midianite pots, they would boil them and then immerse them. And so when you acquire any kind of permanent eating vessel from a store, from a non-Jewish source, whether you buy it used or buy it new, it needs to be dipped in the mikvah, a special mikvah called the kelim mikvah. So kelim are vessels, or so
Dip it in the-
no. Oh, can you dip it? Yes, you can dip it
Yeah.
in the river for
Yeah.
sure. That's a
But
mikvah.
it has to
The
be
river's a
separate.
mikvah. The ocean's a mikvah. Quarry Lake is not a mikvah.
Because it's not running.
Can't you get to it? Can't even cross, you can't even climb over the fence. They were.
Wait a second. No, maybe Quarry Lake is a mikvah.
But you can't enter
It has a natural source.
But you
That's
can't
true,
enter it.
does, But if you can't get
But
it.
it's not flowing water.
Yeah,
So
you
it
can.
has to be flowing
That's what
water.
I heard too.
It does. It flows in and flows out.
Yeah, the
Oh,
river,
oh, right, right.
there's a stream that flows
Right,
into it.
right.
It flows in. It flows in near like Beth Tefillah side, and it flows out on the Green Spring side, and flows down into the Jones Falls. So kosher it first. Let's say it's something that was used. You kosher it first. Once it's completely koshered, then you go to the mikvah. The Kalim mikvah in Baltimore is behind in the parking lot behind the Aguda of Park Heights. The Aguda of Park Heights is on Pinckney and Park Heights. It's a white building. If you go to the parking lot in the back 24/7, you can get, or 24/6, because not on Shabbos. You can, there's something that looks like a kind of a shed. You lift the top and it's water in there. They have like a basket. You put your stuff in, dip it down. Before you dip it down, the bracha is Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu al tevilas kelim.
And it's on the wall.
Well,
Yeah, it's on the wall.
On the mitzvah of immersing our vessels.
And what do you,
And
how many, everything, like?
no, okay,
dishes?
so metal and glass biblically are required. So metal and glass, we make that bracha and we dip them. That's metals
Glass.
and glass.
Glass
So if
for
you
glass
have-
dish, glass drinking glasses?
Drinking glasses, yes. Yes. It doesn't have to, it's not about heat. It's about just things that we use. So this is an interesting one. It's not about flavor. It's not about heat or not heat. This is just, if you're going to use this to eat, you take it to the mikvah. And I would recommend doing it, trips at a time. Like don't try to take everything you own to the mikvah at once. But it's it's a cool mitzvah. So you go there and you dip it in a metal and glass. You say the bracha first. Plastic, you don't have to do it at all. Plastic, rubber, those things are not mikvahable or applicable to mikvah.
So you can still use them and they're okay to?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
totally okay. Clay, like things like the Corningware and the plates, anything, pottery, like cups. The custom is to dip it,
If you can't
but
do
not to
ceramic,
say the bracha,
can't-
because it's rabbinically, it's like a rabbinic reason to dip it. It's close enough to glass that like we're gonna do it, but it doesn't really require it.
So all silverware.
Silverware needs to be dipped, and it needs a dipped with a bracha,
Is this a Torah mitzvah or?
Yes.
rabbinic?
a Torah mitzvah. For the metal and the glass, it's a
So
Torah
do you
mitzvah.
do this before you boil it at home, or do you boil it first and then go to the mikvah?
You put it
Kosher
first, you're
first.
gonna kosher it first.
Wait, one more time. You kosher it first, and then you take it to the mikvah.
Okay.
Cause yeah,
But if you buy it new, you don't have to kosher it because it's already,
if you buy it new, you just go right to the mikvah.
right, yeah, because you met us at the mikvah, we had the new plates.
Yes, because there's no flavor absorbed in your plates if they're new, hopefully.
Right,
So do you just stack them, or do they have to be separated or anything, so the water gets in between?
Yes, you want the water to touch every part of it. Yeah,
And you do the mitzvah each time.
um,
I did this once before, where they also have a mikvah at the savings center in the back.
they do have I don't remember the series.
Here from there,
Did you?
because it was only in Hebrew.
Uh,
wait a minute, you have to keep
No.
repeating the bracha each time you do
Yeah,
it?
No.
oh, that's what
No.
they told me.
really?
It's like,
Wait, so,
But
so you just, like, if you have a lot, you do the bracha first and you just do them all?
Yeah, do them all. Do them all.
Cause you said kalim.
Yeah. You do them all. I mean, if you're gonna like take a break and then come back and do more, but if you're one fell swoop, you're doing a bunch of them.
Is the bracha when you're doing one thing,
Tfilas Keli.
Kaylee, yeah.
So you're saying the dishes have to be separate, and each one has to have the bracha, and all this, forks and spoons don't?
No, I think, if you put dishes in there in the basket, the water's gonna touch
Okay.
everywhere.
So it could be stacked.
Yeah.
I would put it in.
Unless, I mean,
You
what's the
have water.
consensus here? Is the water gonna not touch parts of it if they're
It might
stacked?
not, because they're like, the
They're
gravity's holding
Right.
it, you know.
They're
Okay, then one at a time. Like any mikvah dip, it's essential that the water touches every part of the
You could do
thing.
that, you could put it in one at a time, and then
If
do
I'm
the
gonna go to the
bracha.
street, if you just gonna go. if
That's
you have a-
Alex
if
did.
you have
All
a-
right, anybody else have any questions? What, Lee?
It's a lot of information.
A lot of information. Today was a very informative class. I hope this was not confusing. I hope I made it clear what the issue is here. We're trying to get taste at the end of the day. You want to ask yourself, I mean, you want to follow the halachas like we said, but at the end of the day, you're asking yourself, is there any non-kosher flavor remaining? Is it possible? And that's really what we're trying to do. Okay, everybody?
Okay.
It's not rocket science. It's really
No,
just
no.
it's really just getting rid of any bad flavors.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yasher koach.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.